Okay, so day 6, Romford Film Festival. I'm delighted to be joined in the late session here by some filmmakers. Can you please introduce yourselves and the film of yours that we've just seen? Please start with
Yes,
yourself.
my name is Danny Ashkenasi, and I made the Pendulum and musicabre.
I'm Sonny Mihajlovic, and I was in Flashpoint.
My name is Darren Tassell, and I was in Blue Skies, and also I was the one yelling at him in Flashpoint.
Lovely stuff. Danny, you've come all the way from the US, I understand.
That's right, yes.
So thank you, first of all, so much. Can I have a round of applause, please, for the effort.
That's commitment.
I've got to start with yourself. Edgar Allan Poe. Let's start with Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
You've made a couple of these kind of musical
This
things,
is my
right?
second
Yeah.
musicabre. My first was the Telltale Heart and musicabre, which played at the Romford Horror Film Festival, I think 2 years ago.
Sure. What is it about Edgar Allan Poe that obviously makes that impression on you?
Well, I have a long history with him. Sort of fell into working with Telltale Heart when a roommate of mine who was classically trained looked at me and said, you're half angel, half devil. I think you should read the Telltale Heart. I think it would be a good piece for you. And I read it, and actually it's wonderful to perform. It's a great monologue, which I used at auditions. And then when a theater company that I work with a lot did an Edgar Allan Poe festival, it seemed like a good idea I'm also a composer, obviously, and to write something for myself to perform, and I thought of the Telltale Heart. And so I did that on stage, and then 3 years ago I decided to make a short film of that, and that went well. I really enjoyed the process, and then even in post-production, I had been thinking about making the Pendulum as a companion piece, like an act 2 for the one act that was the Telltale Heart for a long time, but I could not crack the code, so to speak, as to how I was going to do it. And then in post-production for Telltale Heart, I've decided to reread the Pendulum, and then I finally saw what I could do with it to make it work for me as a composer and as a filmmaker. At that point, it was no longer going to be a stage thing. I was going to make it a purely filmic thing. And then basically the cracking the code is what you saw. It's the framing device, and it's depicting the horrors that Edgar Allan Poe describes as psychological constructs in the mind of a man who is attempting suicide. And rather than just something that happens to someone during the course of the Inquisition, but it's something that's happening, basically his own mind is his own inquisitor and his own torturer.
So those mirror scenes, that's the reflection of that mind, right?
The idea for that was, how to depict the judges of the Inquisition in ways that were sort of filmically interesting, and it occurred to me that I would like to see what happens when mirror pieces are put on the face and what kind of imagery you could create. So in a way, it was sort of like this could look really cool,
Yeah.
but it also was an idea of thinking of this, the personality splitting down, particularly as he's dying, that it just becomes shards. And so I really wanted to explore visually what that might look like. So I collaborated with a Czech sculptress and mask maker who lives in New York. And she made a face cast of me. And then I asked her to we used acrylic, not glass, because it was lighter, horizontal planes and vertical planes and diagonal planes that would fit contour to my face. And then we kept adding different constructions that we could fit onto my head and different mirror pieces. And then I had several months before we shot to just practice with my cell phone and see what kind of, this looks good, or whatever. And I took tons of photos and went through them all and then created a lookbook and a plan for shooting. And then in the post-production, I could see what shots worked well together, because there was going to be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them put together, and the result is what you see on the screen.
So, excuse my ignorance, is that kind of like a tradition, that people have done before, that mirroring shot, or is it something that you come up with,
I believe it's something I've come up with. Mirrors, there is a history of mirrors being used in films like The Lady from Shanghai and other famous films where you're in funhouse situations and the mirrors are outside. but I have not yet seen anything else. And I may be wrong. If someone wants to correct me on this, where the mirrors are literally placed on the face, and we're creating the funhouse in the face itself. I did not see that before. It's because I wanted to see that and explore what you could create with that is why we did that.
Thank you. Let's bring in our actors. So let's talk about Flashpoint, the film first that you were both in together. How did you first get involved with the project? You want to start first, Sonny?
I think Louise, the director, reached out to me on via email because she found my email on Mandy.com and just said, "Yeah, do you want to be in a zombie movie?" Yes. I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, yeah, always yes.
It's quite simple, really. I thought that the idea of zombie conversion, I found that quite compelling. I thought it was quite, I don't know, something quite... At first I was amused, and then I read it more and we got more into it, and it became quite dark. Yeah, what more? I don't know. What more to say?
I had a less than serious question, but let's go with it. What was it like to be bitten by Aviana Snow?
It was good. Yeah. It was good.
Fair enough.
She doesn't have very sharp teeth.
She doesn't.
So, and she wasn't like violent.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Not that time.
No. Yeah. Yeah. The prosthetics, the makeup, they put on beforehand, and we just sort of like hit it with the back of Aviana's head.
There's not a cut there. It's kind of clever.
And then
it's clever like camera work rather than passing around. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And what can I tell you? Yeah, the blood and the standard thing of like the makeup and the blood is very sticky and very uncomfortable. So a lot of the discomfort on my face is real because it's really annoying. Yeah.
How about you, Darren? How did you first get involved? And also, question after that: how did you two do any kind of preparation work beforehand, or did you literally?
Well, preparation work. Look, I got 5 kids. I can shout.
Yeah.
So I've done loads of preparation work. No, I was contacted by the makeup artist on there, Tequila Carter, and she recommended me to Louise for the role because I've done similar roles as you just saw. I've done similar roles before. I've done war films and stuff. So Tequila thought I'd be a good fit to come in and just yell at everybody. And that was basically her pitch to me. Do you want to come in on set one day and just yell at everybody? And I said, hell yes. Yeah. So yes, no, I enjoyed it. We went down in a really big muddy field with Sonny, and
you do good yellings.
Again, I've got 5 kids. I'm well versed in that. But yes, it was real good, and that was actually the first time I officially met Aviana, which everyone knows and loves Aviana, and she's a little gem. But it was great to work with Sonny, with Aviana, with Darren James King, who played the other soldier opposite him.
Oh yeah, he's really funny as well.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
No, and Darren's a good friend of mine as well. So it's always nice when you turn up on set. And you're working with familiar people and friends that you've worked with before, so it was a great experience, and it was something different. It was a zombie film, so with a twist even then. So it was nice. Yeah.
Let's just go back to that mention there of the location. Whereabouts was it shot, and how long was the shoot?
I mean the shoot was the shoot was over a weekend. For the life of me, I can't remember where it was.
It was really cold.
But it was horribly cold, and Tequila also had her kids as the other soldiers in the background as well. Yeah. So
they were really cool. They were really nice. They were really funny. It was really cold, but we had like a really good kind of team chemistry. Like everyone was just really nice to each other. So because we'd all got up really early, and then it was freezing cold and it was muddy. Like the snow had just started to thaw, and so everyone was just kind of a bit meh. But because we all felt meh, we all kind of there was like a camaraderie.
And we had to try and do things in quick takes because between that, everyone was like, So it was it was bitter cold out there, but it was good fun.
So, a question for you, Darren. Let's talk about Blue Skies quickly. Where was that shot, and what was your experience?
That was shot. That was, believe it or not, that was a student film, and in fact, this was during COVID. The university had been closed, so they weren't going to get to do their end of year project. So a bunch of the students from the course said, right, well, let's do it away from the university. Okay. So Ben Hands and Sador, the two co-directors of that, Ben Hands is the director of that one. And he got his younger brother in, Josh, to play the soldier opposite me, the young IRA kid, who'd done a fantastic job on the accent, by the way, as well. And we shot it up near Birmingham, and we actually shot it. Ben being Ben, he had arranged this whole shoot in this forest, and we'd got everything right. And as you can see, I was quite a mess at the time. So we was at the forest, and there was a tea hut in the forest. So and during a break during filming, I've walked up to get a cup of tea, and I've got blood and God knows what all over my face. And this guy's just standing there, just mesmerising me. He said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, we're shooting a film, we're doing this, doing that, doing that." He said, "Oh, no, you're not. I'm from the Forestry Commission and I haven't given you permission, so you can't even..." So
we spilled the beans.
Well, I had to. We was on his land doing it in front of him. So, but at this point, as an actor, I didn't know that they didn't have the permission to film everywhere. And quite rightly, he kicked us off the forestry land. Right. So Ben then spoke to his father, who then rang a friend, and it was like, who do you know that's got a land with some forest in it? I mean, I'm sure we all know someone with land and forests. But luckily, he did come up with a new location, and within 2 hours, we had to finish the scene, which was the walking scene from when the noise went off, and then you see him walking me away from that location. Yes. That was the cut between the two locations. So we had to do we weren't going to do the walking scene, but we fitted that in to give us an excuse to shoot in a different part of the forest. So, but no, it was real good fun. It was a true story as well, mostly, based on obviously a true event. Yep. The uniform I wore, the guy who played the IRA, the head of the IRA, who pointed the gun, said, "You've got 10 minutes." I was actually wearing his real uniform that he wore. He's an Englishman, and I was wearing his uniform that he wore at that actual event as well. So it was everything was as authentic as you can get, because that was his uniform that he wore while he was on tour in Northern Ireland.
So the guy was on set with you?
Yes, and he played the IRA guy, but he was the British soldier whose uniform I was wearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so was he like informing you sort of?
Yeah, he helped us every step of the way to keep everything authentic, and with the terminology on the radio, and how copy and exactly what I should be saying. So yeah, he supplied all the knowledge and the uniforms and the authenticity to it. So it was great to have Nick on board. Yeah. Nicholas David Lean. Yeah.
Great stuff. Danny, where did you shoot your film? Is it in the studio? Is it at home? How did you the mixture?
Mostly in the studio. Yeah. The two sets that were not in the studio, there's a 19th century sort of authentic, intact townhouse in New York called the Merchant House, and that's where we did the stairways, as well as the outdoor night scenes when he's being dragged by the soldiers through the streets. We actually used the backyard for that. And then everything that happens in the bathroom is my own bathroom in Park Slope, Brooklyn.
There you go. DIY filmmaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was our first day of shooting. So I met most of the crew that day, and
welcomed them into your house.
And there I was in my swimming trunks for most of the day, sitting in a bathtub while we were working.
So Danny, can I say I was absolutely mesmerised by that?
Thank you.
That was a really, really powerful performance, a powerful piece. I was absolutely mesmerised from start to finish.
Yeah. Can we ask questions? Can we ask?
Go for it. You can
do ask questions of each
You're
other.
more than welcome.
What did you use for the blood under the water? Because that was a really convincing effect.
Right. So everything that was filmed underwater, the bathtub, we had to actually film in the studio, and because my bathtub was not big enough to get the camera in. Right. There's that too. So we my production designer got a kiddie pool, painted it white, and so there was plenty of room there. And my DP put the GoPro camera in a waterproof case.
Fantastic.
And my production co-producer was also a special effects makeup artist expert. Basically, he created the blood with the mixture that you create blood with on film sets. This much cornstarch syrup or whatever, and this much red number 4 or whatever it is. And then he had a pump, and he had a hose, and he put his thumb on the top of the hose, brought his arm just so it was. I was lying like this. The hose was coming right here. And he could just let it go and control the flow of the blood into the water. And I wanted to have a very close crop so that the body looked more like a landscape than an actual body.
It was a great effect.
When those underwater blood shots were being shown.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, and we had a lot of blood. Yeah, we made a lot of blood. Lots of blood in the water. Also when we were in the. In my house, because for the final shot, the whole bathtub had to look very red.
Yeah.
There are several people look at that go, yeah, he's dead. He bled out. I'm sorry, he did not survive that. And then others would say, no, he lives. And I don't know.
Yeah, I feared the worst. I did. Yeah.
My view, the ending is ambiguous, whether he survives or not. I mean, according to Edgar Allan Poe, he survives, but according to what you see, it might be more
Make up
ambiguous.
your own mind.
I have heard stories of people surviving that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, let's not get into it, but
it
is possible.
Yes, and I want to leave it to the audience whether the disappearance of the 3 judges at the end pertains as death or their disappearance. They could either way. It's the one time that they're showing empathy.
Well, I was intrigued to see where you was going to go with it, because obviously I watched the Pit and the Pendulum with Lance Henriksen. Mm-hmm. It's obviously about the Spanish Inquisition,
right.
and I really enjoyed the film and the concept of it. So I was familiar with what the Pit and the Pendulum is.
Right.
So I was really looking forward to seeing where you was going to go with it, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. The Poe itself, the what you see in the beginning, the Latin inscription on the sign. The original Poe actually begins with that Latin inscription without translating it. I had to look up a translation to find out what that Latin was. But that is what gave me the impetus to say, okay, I can use Latin in this. Because in the original Poe, the judges of the Inquisition don't have anything to say. They're barely mentioned, actually. They're in the preamble, that doesn't happen. But I wanted them to be part of the movie, and so I thought of using the Dies Irae poem.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That is used all the time in Requiem masses. So there's a famous Verdi Dies Irae. When you hear it, you go like, yeah, I know that piece of music, and Mozart and others. And so, like when they are singing with the first time you see them with their mirrors, that is pure traditional text. I did not make that up, but. Other parts of the Latin, I had to come up with my own Latin lyrics
your own
to fit the music
and
add to the original Dies Irae poem. But it supplements. So I Google Translate, and then a German friend who studied Latin helping me out make sure the grammar was correct.
Well, I can see the level of work that went into that, and I congratulate you. It was a powerful piece. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm absolutely loving this new format. I mean, this is great. My voice is almost gone after 6 days. This is brilliant. You guys, is there any?
I have more questions.
Go on, one more question. Go on.
So when you were like. When you fall into the area just before the pit and you're singing, did you record the vocals live, or did you sync up your vocals after the fact?
The second. All my vocals were recorded ahead of time.
Okay, it syncs up really well. It syncs up so well.
Yes,
that's incredible.
Mostly. There's one moment that still irks me, but I'm not going to tell you.
I
when.
didn't notice it. I didn't.
We didn't spot it.
I didn't spot it.
Just logistically also because, there's layering of voices, so there's no way I could have done it on set. But we recorded all the music ahead of time. The cellos and the piano were recorded and mixed, and then I recorded my vocals, and we chose the right takes, and we mixed it together just the way we wanted the sound to be. And then we created tracks that we could then perform to in front of the camera, with click tracks and things like that, so we knew what our timing was. So the only sound that was recorded on set is in the bathroom. It's not even my vocals, it's Ed's vocals.
When he comes in.
When he comes in. And the sounds of the water and all that. That is, we had a guy for a half a day to record the sound on set. Everything else was pre-recorded.
Wow,
Very
fantastic.
Cool. Very cool.
Fantastic. Right, we've got time for one audience question.
You're allowed to ask questions too.
One at the front here. It is late, so thank you for sticking with this one. Pardon?
Well, Danny, I mean, fantastic use of mirrors and fantastic sound. But my question involves something in the credits. When you talk about hair donation.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
So, as you can tell, in most of the movie I've got long hair, and then as the judges, I'm bald. So on our 9th day of shooting, in the middle of the day, my hair got shaved off. And ahead of time, I arranged with the hair donation center. They make wigs for cancer patients, and they were the only group that accepted hair with gray in it. And my hair was long enough to be acceptable. It needs to be at least 12 inches, and my hair was 14. So I was able to put it in Ziploc bags and send it to them. And I'm still waiting to see the wig that they made with it. But Hair We Share, I think is the name of the group. They're the ones who got my hair in the mail to make a wig out of.
That's cool.
So, I feel like Peter's been very lazy during this interview. Did you by any chance get to your Flashpoint character and show it?
I also want to hear Danny sing at some point.
Oh, God.
I'm going to leave that to the end. Can we do both of them? Can we do both of those things? Danny, would you mind at all?
It's not going to sound as good as what you heard there because I'm a little
I
jet
can
lagged.
hear your voice. He's
Yeah,
doing
a
it.
little.
But I can do that. Next time, you will read the questions on the paper. Are we clear?
Yes, sir! Round of applause for that. Now, here we go.
Next time you'll read the questions that are on the paper. Is that clear?
Well, yeah.
Well, that was fun. Thank you. You can ask more questions.
That was a study on contrasts.
This is my performance.
I've just got a quick anecdote for you, Danny.
Yeah.
So when we showed Telltale Heart a couple of years ago, we showed it at Screen 3, which is next door, and someone came flying out halfway through your screening because they said whatever, I don't know what part of the film it was in, but they were literally terrified because of the soundscape.
Oh.
I can understand that.
It really they literally came flying out with like some real speed. And then someone said, some random person was walking past and they said, I need to go in there and see what else going on.
Oh, okay, and the soundscape in this in the Pendulum is much more extreme than what I did in Telltale Heart. I mean, Telltale Heart is, I'm still glad that it, am I glad that it terrified them? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah,
That's a badge of honor, I think.
Yeah, I was really happy to see it in the screening room because I've been to many, many festivals, but they didn't all use DCPs, and they didn't all have a really good surround sound setup like this. And that's sort of the way the film was designed to be heard when the voices are multiplying, that they really are coming from all around you. So I really appreciate being able to have this experience at the Romford Film Festival. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you, guys. Danny, Sonny, and Darren, thank you so much for coming, especially you, Danny. Top of the round of applause, please. Thank you.